Hi, it's Wayne O'Keefe, and I'm fishing at one of my favourite spots in Melbourne. It's the Melbourne River. It's not far from my place. It only takes about, took me 30 minutes to get here this morning. I started pretty early. As you can see, the water behind me is very, very high. Normally, you'd probably be, I don't know, almost half a metre lower than this, but we've had a lot of rain, so the water's obviously high. That can be good and bad. I mean, it's good often because what it will do is it'll wash a lot of food in. Naturally, when you have a lot of rains, you will get rubbish going into the water, but also it washes food in. So things like worms and insects and that normally on the grasses, on the bank sides, and in the around near the gutters and or the creeks flowing into these rivers, will carry that food in. Once that food is coming in, the fish are stimulated to eat. And that makes it good for fishermen because even though the water's high and there can be food in there, an eating fish is always better than a non-eating fish. So that's one of the good things about rain. So getting in there a day after or a couple of days after it happens often is taking advantage of stimulated fish. It's nice to slowly overcoast this morning. We're approaching summer, so it's going to be warmer today. And so you have to get there early because once that bright sun comes out, which it's expected to do today, the fish tend to go deeper and also shut down a little bit. So what I'm hoping to do is take advantage of this early morning activity, see what I can bring in. So 2 rods in today, and standard setup that I always use: burley cages, small hooks, range of baits, and I'm using a breadcrumb mix as my burley today, which is breadcrumb always being the basis of all of the burleys that I use generally, certainly for this type of work. So we'll see how we go. Morning. First fish of the morning. Well, starting small is okay as long as they get better. We'll see how we go. I've just missed a really good fish. Because I know the area fairly well, I didn't actually cast in and feel around, so cast in with a bit of a weight and reel back in to feel around for any snags. And since we've had all this rain, some stuff has washed in. So there was a big snag to my right, and I had what would have been, I'm sure, a very good brim on it. Took me to the right, wrapped himself around the snag, and I lost him. So important thing to do every time, even if you know the water fairly well, because conditions change so much. As if you're going to want to search out the bottom for where the snags are, put a weight on your line, cast in around the area, reel back in, and feel the bottom to see if there's any snags. I didn't do it, and I suffered for it, but I know where that snag is now. Well, looks like the mullet are getting bigger. Once you get the burley going, you can get them in as fast as that. If you've collected them into the area by making sure that you're casting accurately all the time to the same spot, the burley will bring the fish in. Now these are only small, but what I'm hoping is the big ones will follow them. So we'll just see if we can improve on these guys. When you're fishing the water and it's as high as this, so high tide, or there's been rain which has actually lifted the water in the estuaries, you don't have to cast that far out. I'm only really casting out about, I don't know, about 5 meters. The reason being is that the water has come up over areas, made them deeper, and areas where there is a lot of small crustaceans and crabs and things like that. So the fish will come in closer to search and feed on those, because some of those areas are often very shallow, and so the fish don't come up there that often. The crabs and crustaceans, the small fish take refuge there all the time. So this is opening up new pasture for them. They're coming in to feed. So you don't have to cast that far out, because you know that a lot of the stuff is going to come up this far. And the other thing is that I've got 2 rods in. Generally I'll have a lighter rod that is quite active, and another rod that I have something larger on. So I've got a larger hook, a pippy on the big one. On the small one I'm using a combination of different baits. So I'm using sort of dough and maggots and little bits of squid. So it's just you just mix it up to see what happens. But I usually have the big one in on the off chance that something large will come along and want a big pippy, and I get lucky that way. What we've got in here today is a lot of mullet, and in these estuaries sometimes they are notoriously hard to strike into, to hook. What they do is they pick up and drop the bait very quickly, and they hit it. It's like a rat-a-tat-tat, and you can only strike when it's in their mouth, so you've got to only do it when there's tension on the rod. And the trouble is the tension only lasts for a second, so it really tests your reflexes. It can be really good fishing, and sometimes the mullet are quite large, but it's just because this area is heavily fished. They're used to people, they're very wary, so what happens is they tend to swallow or not swallow, to bite and drop the bait. And they tend to eat that way generally, so they tend to be like that wherever you go, but in these heavily fished areas they're far worse. So it's a real test of reflexes, and I have lost quite a heap. The other thing is that they've got a soft mouth, so which seems to break quite easily. So if you hook into one with a really fine hook, often you can pull it out when you get it in close. So, and because they have that sort of shaking action in their body, a little bit like Australian salmon do, they easily throw the hooks. So they are a bit of a challenge. They're great fun. It really tests your skills. So I'm having a bit of fun with this today, but it's also a little bit frustrating because I've lost quite a few. Now I'm getting bites on this longer rod here. Oops. And I'm on both of them actually now, since I've had the burley going in. Well, you can see there's a little tiny bit of pippy, what's left of it now, and the mullet are biting, but boy are they hard to catch and hard to keep on the hook. And missed another one just in the shallows. That's a mullet. Oh no, sorry, that's a bream. So. White line. Got off.
Got off.
Now, another thing that's happened, I've missed a few fish, and I mean I've been missing fish because the mullet here are quite hard to hook. But the other thing is that I just checked my hook before, and it wasn't as sharp as it could have been. So one of the things that I always do is make sure that you've got a hook sharpener with you, because even chemically sharpened hooks, you know, you hit a fish with teeth, or if you hit some rocks and things like that, they get blunt, and then of course they don't have the penetration, so you're going to miss fish anyway. So the worst thing is doing all the work to get the fish hooked, but then have it get off because you've got a lousy hook tip. So keep your hook sharpener with you at all times, and it can save some heartache that I've had today. So I'll remember that next time. Okay. So sometimes they're only small, but that's all there is in there. So it's still a bit of fun to catch them. So you keep going, keep your belly going, keep your bait fresh, keep casting, you'll get the fish in. And if there's only small fish, at least you can enjoy that.